question. If you've asked me a question, after every slide, I'll go back and take a look at the screen to see if there is a question and respond to it. Otherwise, we'll take all of them up together towards the end of the session. So from my understanding of your project, I understand that you're all working on ensuring that you have sellers uploaded onto Snapdeal's platform. So it's a retail space. It's an idea of moving from an actual store to a virtual store. So it's an interesting project that you guys have got on. So congratulations on this project. What we'll do today is we will explore what is marketing, what is the kind of marketing that you can do to reach out to your target audience, what is market research, what is the selling that you can do to this target audience, and of course market expansion. So these are the areas. I'm on slide 2. This is the overview. This is what we're going to go through today. Hopefully it will help you identify what are the concern areas for you guys to sort of start thinking about what you have to do to get to your final goal, which is of course reaching the X number of sellers. So that's the base marketing research definition and the importance of why you should do market research. I'll give you a quick couple of minutes to go through it, and post that I'll actually go ahead and give you a detailed. Like I said, I'm not going to read out from the slides. That's something that you guys should do. So the reason why marketers do market research is primarily to understand who it is that they're selling to. A shot in the dark marketing campaign never really works because you don't know who you're talking to. It's like talking to the four walls of a room and expecting somebody you want out there to listen to what you're saying to have actually heard you, which doesn't work. So what you do is you actually go ahead and you do a market research project based on what your product is and based on what it is that you're selling to the target audience that you want to reach out to. The reason it's really important is because it tries to help you identify the set of people that you think are going to be benefited by the product. In your case, these are going to be sellers. They could be small or medium businesses which have real stores, which want an online presence. They don't really have a website where they sell. They don't have an e-commerce platform. It makes a lot of sense for them to upload their products onto Snapdeal. It's a fairly easy thing to do. All you need is photographs. Online selling, online buying has become an everyday thing. E-commerce has broken all records of industries. So I think it's an interesting space to be sort of exploring this sort of a. So if you see the importance of market research, it talks about market information. What is market information? It's basically all your statistics around who it is that you want to sell in. This could be the numbers associated to your market space. This could be, identifying who is your ideal customer. So existing customer insights, these are actually benchmarks. So if your product is not new, you already have an existing customer base, then it's ideal to look into who is this existing customer base to understand what is your future customer base going to look like. So that's the base for you to sort of try and leverage the information that you have to reach that stage. Who is your potential customer? What's a prospect? A prospect is somebody that who could buy your product or who could ask for your service, and how do you identify that? So that's something that market research helps you do. Without a need, you can't really sell. You have to create a need. That's the push strategy of marketing. Okay, so first you push the need onto the customer, and then he will pull the product off of you because he has to meet that particular need. So that's how you identify what a customer need is, and then you meet that need by providing the product that you think is going to be his or her solution to his problem. Customer behavior patterns, how do people behave? You would have seen this in the FMCG industry, and for the retail industry, it's about what is it that this person is going to buy. In your case, this is not the end customer, which is basically the user who's going to buy the product. It's actually the person who is selling the product to the existing customer base of Snapdeal. So trying to identify what is their behavior patterns. Identify what is the competition doing. So you all know there are other e-commerce chains in the retail space that do the same sort of model in terms of asking sellers to come and list their products on their site. So that's an interesting thing to note as to what are those guys doing differently to try and identify what is your competition doing. It's always good to be aware of competition. And then we have identify business opportunities. So what is it that your business is meeting right now as a requirement? To identify what is the opportunity that exists for you to improve and to scale up to meet a larger target or a larger segment in terms of a strategy, building a strategy. Resolving a business problem, now like I said, there is needs, there is wants, and you have to identify what a business problem that you could have right now that needs a solution that can help sell your product better. Who else but a marketer to define to business that this is a problem with your product, you need to fix this before I go out there and sort of start selling it out there for you. Accurate business decisions, so based on the market research that you've done, based on the kind of target audience you have, if you know that there are 1,000 sellers in Bangalore today that you can reach out to, then you can plan for your business to reach that 1,000 based on how many sales individuals you have. If you have 4 people, then you divide 1,000 by 4 and you assign the numbers accordingly to each of them. So what it helps you do is it helps you take accurate business decisions and actual steps to reach where you think that goal is. So it also helps goal setting, and it also helps you map your plan to reach that goal. And that's how you develop business strategies. So once you have the market research in place, it also helps you identify what is your overall business strategy that you're going to go with. If you look at the next slide, I'm going to let you read it for a bit because this is something that will take a little bit of understanding for you guys to look at. Just read it once and I'll explain it to you point by point. Research, we've taken 3 different approaches to understanding what are the types of market research. By source. Now, by source would be where does this research come from? Primary research is a project that you take on your own. That is, you do something in terms of a compilation. Let's say you want to find out how many sellers are there in the market that you can reach out to. What you do is you pick up a listing of, let's say, shops in a particular area. Let's pick Indranagar, for example, if Bangalore is the area of interest. And then you pick a listing of the shops in that particular area, and then you figure out by cross-verifying each one of them to see if they have a website or an online presence. Then you further deep dive down the listing, and then you say, okay, X number of them have websites but are not listed anywhere else. X number of them have no website or web presence, and X number of them could be our potential. So when you're doing that directly, that's primary research. When you identify, let's say, a group of people, okay, so if you want to, let's say, go to your sellers and do, pick a dipstick for it. What is a dipstick? A dipstick is basically you pick a sample from your universal set, you create a subset, and then you pick a small number of people there, and then you do a research. So that is also primary research, where you pick a dipstick and you do a qualitative or a quantitative study. You go give them forms, you hand hold them forms, and you say, fill this in for me with a lot of questions. Now that is primary research. What is secondary research? Secondary research is looking at what already exists. So there is a lot of information that's available online in a lot of publications, journals. A lot of research around science and around a lot of that can be secondary research because there's somebody who's already done a big portion of your research for you. Your entire national survey that happens with the number of people, X number of communities, and all of that is something that's an already published source which you can tap into and which you can get information from. So that is secondary research, wherein you're actually pushing the onus of trying to find somebody onto an existing published article or existing information, and you're accessing that to get done with your research. Now, ideally, most researchers involve both primary and secondary forms of, research. So it takes a lot of both steps to sort of come together with a final published data. A lot of PhDs use both primary and secondary to help them with their research. So what is quantitative research and what is qualitative research. Now, quantitative research is obviously, you can understand, it's all around numbers. It's about statistics. You identify and you say X age, X number of X income. So you have a lot of quantitative matrices that you can map these people into and sort of push them into and say bucket them by type, by age, and all of that. Now, what is qualitative research? Is basically understanding how does a person, let's say, respond to an X kind of food. That could be a qualitative research, because there you don't have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 scale rating. You have a liked it, didn't like it sort of a rating. So it's more about objective-based questioning. So that's your qualitative research. So they are not quantifiable matrices wherein you can actually put a number to it, but it's more of a research that's being done to sort of understand the like/dislike towards whatever the research that you're carrying. Now, research can also be classified based on what is your final objective, what is it that you want to get to. Is it exploratory, which is basically you want to find out something before you actually get to an idea, which is, just for your understanding, because right now you will not be doing exploratory research. Descriptive, so this is basically to how identify each single element of an idea precisely. So, what is your target market? Now, this is something that you will do, because if you're looking at sellers, then you will spend some time researching and putting together your target market for whichever area it is that you guys are going to be operating out of. Casual or experimental research, this is a cause-effect relationship. This is something that most of you all have done in school. Response to stimuli experiment. That's something that is the most simplest experiment. Price elasticity is the example that's given here. So that's your casual or experimental research. You could do that depending on what your need is and when it arises. Types of market research. Market research involves two types of data. There is the primary information, which is a research that you compile for yourself, as I've already described. And then there is the secondary information, which is basically accessing existing data. So if you guys can read this for a moment, I'll just leave that to you. So the data that you collect is also based on how you gather this. So that's something that you can take a look at. As I can see right now, there are no questions, so I'm going to continue as we had. So when you gather primary data, it's basically you going out there and getting information from X, Y, Z. So the example that I gave you of, let's say you go ahead and you walk into every store on Indranagar, and then you get their addresses and their information. That's primary data that is collected. Secondary information is something that has let's say a shop listing for the entire Bangalore city, and then you break it down. You're using a secondary, already established database to sort of go ahead and access it. Types of market research by methodology. Now again, I'll give you a couple of minutes for you to look at it. The approaches are different for qualitative and quantitative. This just lists different approaches that you can take to sort of identify what are the types of questions that you should put through, what is the sample size that you have to pick depending on what your research is, what is the kind of analysis that has to be done, and what are the areas that can be probed. So this shows you the difference between how you approach a qualitative piece of information versus a quantitative piece of information. I'm sorry if you guys haven't had the time to take a look at it. Adyasha will ensure that this is sent to all of you, the deck, so you guys can take it from home. It's simple, right? When you want to find out what is it that somebody has in terms of a breakdown of quantitative data, you will also place your questions accordingly. You will ask a question which is, how old are you? Between the ages of 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50. Now that's a numerical value. Whereas if it's a qualitative kind of research, you will perhaps ask, would you go to a 5-star restaurant every day of the week versus a coffee shop which is around the corner? So these kind of questions which are probing, which are slightly more detail oriented for you to figure out the types of behavior patterns of people are more qualitative in nature. So that's a fair difference between the two. Analyze market segments and select target markets. So here's an example of how it's applied research. And again, let you read it. We'll come to the market research process. Now, how do you start a market research project? It can be a micro research or a macro research. Macro researches take a long duration of time, whereas macro researches are quick, easy, they get you to access data fairly easily. So the market research process involves here, and we've just listed out about 5 of them. So there is define your problem and define the objective. If your problem is if your problem statement is trying to identify sellers that can be relocated or made to want to join Snapdeal's online platform, could be your problem. Identify objectives, say X number of people would want to bring on the platform at X so and so. So try and identify what is the problem statement, try and define the objectives of the research, what is it supposed to mean. Are you going to identify the behavioral characteristics? Are you going to identify how they currently sell? What is their existing market? Who are they selling to? Is it local? Do they have means of reaching a wider geographical area? Do they have branches? These are all things that you might want to find out. So try and define whether you want to combine exploratory, descriptive, casual research processes. You will need to do that when you're setting up the objectives, and that will tell you the direction in which you can go. Then you have to develop the research plan. Are you guys going to go to every single store, or are you guys going to go and identify an online platform that can give you a listing of the stores? I'm using the same example again because I think it will relate to you. So figure out whether you have a market research budget. What is your data sources, like I just listed? What is your research approach? Like I said, are you going to do a primary, secondary? What are the instruments that you're going to use? What is your sample set? Because you obviously cannot research your entire segment out there of sellers, right? That's not possible. You'll have to pick a sample set that's available to you, that's closest to reach. Keep your budgets low because you don't really want to spend too much money on the research process when you're just being an entrepreneur and just starting out. It's something that So ensure that you make a plan which is sustainable and which you can actually carry through. So identify all of these areas. Figure out how you're going to contact them. Are you going to use the telephone? Are you going to go in person and meet the person? Or is it an online survey? It's absolutely okay to do that once you identify your target segment. You should also know if they have telephones where they can be accessed. Do they have email IDs that you have access to that you can send out information to them? So these are things you'll have to identify. Collecting the information is once you've defined your problem, your objectives, once you've figured out that this is the research plan that you've put into place, you start with the execution. So you start with collecting the information that's going to give you the final results of the research. So information has to be collected according to the plan, what it is that you have outlined. And usually most people, entrepreneurs don't have the luxury, but the larger funded ones, of course, get a lot of the research done. They outsource it. But if you're doing it on your own, make sure you plan it around constraints which are relating to what is it that you can actually access. Once you have all of the data together, data which is not analyzed is just of no use. So you will have to take a look at what is the analysis that you can put this data through, because it has to give you the final answers to your problem. Right? It has to meet all of your objectives. So what you should do is you should put the data through a lot of series of statistical understanding. Is there a mean? Is there a range? Figure out whether you're doing a focus group session, get a lot of details from there, and put it all together and analyze the information to try and understand your final audience. Once that's done, depending on whether you would ideally like to record it. I would suggest that you record all of this as a process, because it's always good to record a market research process and to identify what it is that you have done through the entire process. So once that's done, you present the findings. If it's even to your own self, or if it's to, for you to keep a record of, it's good to present the findings, figure out what the conclusions you arrived at are, explain the methodologies that you have used, and sort of present the final data to whoever it is or to yourself, so that you have a better understanding of who it is that you're going to target. Benefits of market research. This is again something that I will let you guys read. So what happens with the benefits would be, firstly, it helps you identify who it is that you're going to sell to. It helps you identify what it is that you have to do. So when you're doing market research, you pose a lot of questions to yourself. If you were Snapdeal and if you were the seller, then you'll have to put yourself in both shoes and then figure out what it is that one can get from the other. So you'll have to play both sides of the game. And you'll have to identify the process of playing both sides of the game, so that you have absolute focus on what it is, the final outcome that you want out of this entire thing. So it has multiple reasons, multiple benefits. It's never ending. I would always suggest a market research, even if it's primary research, or even if it's sitting out there figuring out on Google and doing a lot of reading. All of it helps. So don't ever discredit or discount market research. It's a very, very crucial thing that has to be part of your plan. Wherever you are, however entrepreneurial you are, you will need help of existing documentation and research for you to go ahead with whatever your plan or idea is. What the experts have to say and some fun facts. I'll again let you read this. There you go. How brands have utilized market research to sort of give them the best bang for the buck. Okay, so with that, we come to the end of market research. Make sure you do your market researches before you go out there and start with your marketing campaigns and you start selling. Sales. Now, we have done our marketing research. We know this now. We want to reach our target audience. We figured out what we want to do in terms of marketing to them. How do we sell? So sales, the learning curve, why don't you just take a look at it? There's a little bit of a snippet that's been put down there for you guys to look at. Why sell, right? If marketers were to do all of the marketing and making the noise around it, why do we need people to sell? Because it's like an ad, right? An ad can only tell you that this is what we have. Who is that person that's going to come and tell you why you need it? It's like your standard Eureka Forbes salesperson, which is who we've been acquainted to all our lives. The reason you would want to buy a Eureka Forbes from a Eureka Forbes guy is not because of the marketing that they've done, it's because of the market value that the sales guys have created with it. So that's an example. So selling is a very crucial part of the business process. How much ever you market, there will be competition. If your sales team can get out there and sort of get ahead of the curve and get ahead of the competition and sell, whatever job the marketing team has done is worthwhile, only when the sales guys actually completed. So it's a very hand-in-glove relationship between marketing and sales. All of it is to aid selling, of course. You can't run a business without sales, without numbers. So it's a very, very crucial arm of any organization is to be able to sell the products that they create. It's a continuous process to be able to map what a customer needs and to be able to communicate that back to the organization and to make a change to fit the customer's need is a cyclic process, and sales guys help do that, apart from just selling. There you go. That's the sales learning process. It has multiple phases. There is the initiation phase. So that's basically you set up the team, you staff it, you ensure that you have the financial resources sorted. The transition stage is when the selling is, the product is being refined. It's, also reaching the traction point for the organization. And then there is the execution phase, which is the formula for success has been developed and all of this support requirements for sales reps are in place. So ideally, this is again from a learning point of view, not from what you're exactly going to be doing with this session, but when you're selling a product, always ensure that the product is complete, at least complete to have done a base test with an existing group so that it doesn't fail for anybody and no customer is unhappy, because if a customer is unhappy and your product is not complete, then your entire business idea could go for a toss. So remember, when you're entrepreneurs, it's okay to wait. It's okay to show that the product is actually viable to be sold out there, and it's okay to wait for the profits to happen. When you're testing it, it's okay to go on a lean period, but don't ever compromise on doing the actual testing that's required, and by going ahead with a half-baked product. That would be the death toll for anybody, for any idea or any product. So. Yeah, so here you go. How do you create an effective sales pitch? You call a seller and say, hi, calling from SmartE. We want you to list on our page. Thank you. The person's not going to listen to you. There's obviously no reason why he has to come and he has to put his products up on your page if you don't have a compelling argument for him to do so. So you'll have to think about what it is that you're going to say to this person for that person to be actually happy enough to go ahead and to want to, come and list on your page. So from that point of view, figure out what is that compelling argument. Talk to 4 or 5 sellers that you want to onboard, people you know who have stores, and go ahead and try and have this conversation with them so that you have a fair idea about what it is that they want to hear from you for them to actually list on your page. So here's a slide which talks about how do you create that sales pitch. You have to know your audience really well. You have to know everything about your audience. Ideally, that's something that I would say don't ever compromise on. Understand your target audience. Figure out what time he wakes up and what time he goes to sleep and what he eats in between, and all of that may be important for all you know. I'm just saying it's the foundation to knowing what and how you can sell, and to answering the questions of what, why, when, where, how. So to be able to do that, you need to understand this person, and once you know your audience, you can craft a pitch. So don't do the boring, hi, I'm calling from SmartE. We have this platform which is very effective. Don't do that, because when you do a standardized regular conversation, you could be placed as any one of the other competitors that's actually calling them to have a page on their website as well. So you have to be different. Deliver a pitch. So when you're delivering a pitch, again, don't always, each person is different, right? So if there is a seller who's very chatty, speak to them, ask them how the weather is. If it's somebody who's very business-like, directly get to the point, ensure that you have exactly what you want to say in mind. Try and understand a little bit of these nuances of people so that you have a fair inkling of how it works with each different type of person. So make it a conversation. Try and find out what they need. Everybody wants somebody to talk to figure out, oh, you have a problem? Really? Let me see how I can solve that for you. And become consultative in your approach. The minute you become a consultative sort of a person who they can reach out to, they'll call you anyway. It's just that one phone call that you have to crack, and you have to sort of ensure that you stay on their minds. Now, closing your pitch, personalize the narrative. You would have had a conversation with the person, you have understood what are the pain points and the pain areas. So what you try and do is by saying, oh, Mr. So-and-so, really, I have understood that this is a problem that you're facing and you're not able to grow beyond this. This has been your annual turnaround in terms of revenue. Why don't you try this as a solution? And why don't you experiment with it for, say, X months and see what is the outcome it gives you? Then we will try and figure out what is the best way to take this forward. So I love a demo. Give them, a checkbox sort of a thing where And then you can say, okay, these are the things that you can checklist to grow your business. So become a growth consultant for them, so to speak. So if you're pitched at, you either swag to bat it away or duck to avoid it. Now that's just, neither of these works well in sales. That's what it says. So there you go. I'm going to move to the next slide, but before that, let me quickly take a look at if you all have any questions for me. Doesn't look like it. I'm just going to see. Ask me if you guys have any questions. I can't see any on the chat window. Just let me know if you need me to respond to any. Yeah. Okay, going back. Here. It's just some fun cartoons that they put together for you to take a look at. What not to do when you're selling. Okay, so now we move to the promotion strategy for the onboarding process. So once you have done your market research, once you figure out how you're going to sell, you need to know how you're going to promote. So there are multiple ways to promote. Yeah. So let's just go to that. Yes. Social media that matters. Now why is social media important? Because to most parts, most people today have access to social media. We're talking about a digital India. We're talking about reaching a place where everybody has a smartphone. Everybody has access to social media. Everybody's using social media and hashtags like there was no tomorrow. So try and figure out a mechanism of, and of course, social media is free. It's to most parts, if you're not advertising on social media, you're fairly sorted, because if you just run a really good campaign, which is an engagement campaign on sites, that will do too. So if you see the media sphere, you can see publishing, you can see micro-publishing, you can see sharing, there are discussions, there are social networks, there's video and content. So now, always remember that your content has to be simple. Whatever your medium, whatever your means of communication, it could be social media, it could be print, it could be broadcast, it could be anything. The baseline to any communication, even when you're creating a CV, which is simplicity. Do you have a problem? I have this solution for you. Okay, so it has to be that simple. It has to be something that an 8th grader can pick up. Why do newspapers write the briefing, right? So it has to be that simple. It has to be that clean and that easy to understand. So while you focus on the content, you realize that there are multiple things that can be done with content. You can use PowerPoint, simply PowerPoint, to just give that, infographic a little bit of a tweak so people understand what your idea is. Now, if you were to create, for example, in the project that you're doing, use the PowerPoint deck to sort of identify your process of how can you onboard a person who is having trouble selling and transfer this person onto an online selling mode by having a page of his own. So make that like an experience. Create an experience for this person who needs to be signed up. Right? So that will help. Any infographic will help. Any sort of explanatory text will not help you as much as, let's say, a meme or an infographic. So always ensure that you use more infographics, maybe which are simple, easy, small, to explain what the idea and the outcome will be. So here is a list of all the social media platforms that you can leverage. Yeah, so how do you leverage the social media? So in case anybody can use social media, right? Anybody can create a page. Anybody can. That's the good news about social media. It's accessible to all. Until and unless you want to advertise, you can choose not to. So the thing is, finding this middle ground in between trying to achieve all of it through social media versus a regular campaign. There is no such thing as a standalone campaign. Every single campaign that has ever been successful has always been a 360-degree campaign. You cannot get away with doing just print or just social. It has to be aligned to multiple facets of doing a promotional campaign. So identify it. While you can reduce things that are more cost associated, you can't really ignore to do them at all. So, of course, with sales, there is a limit to the number of people that you have in-house. ROI measurement is a little bit of a difficult situation when it comes to selling. There is a lot of lack of compelling content, and there is inability to become mobile aware, and there's lack of consensus or importance. So what happens with social media is sort of, if you can get away with figuring out these areas with a sales objective, you can always find a successful way to manage your social media marketing campaigns. So that's something that's for you to take away. Okay, so how do you bring the right people into your social media pages? What is it that comes calling? Scorpio, for example, did a very, very interesting social media campaign. When the new Scorpio was launched, they had every day you could go, if you were a page, if you had liked their page and all of that, you could go, you could click on the image on their Facebook page, and you could just click the mouse, and every day the 10% of the card would be repeat, the new card. So you could actually go through 10 days, and at the end of the 10 days you'd actually see the full card with all the specs out there for you. So it was an unveil that you did yourself. Everybody likes ribbon cutting, everybody likes to unveil a new product, right? The whole launch. Usually politicians get to do that, but not all of us are allowed to. So what if you can do a campaign like that, right? It's really out of the box. It's really something that you can think of. So in the automobile space, it could be something like that. In other spaces like retail, there's a lot of interesting ads. If it's apparel, if it's if it's FMCG products, you will see a lot of these interesting advertisements. You can YouTube them. You can see the top 10 ads. You can look at the top viral ads. Another campaign that I can talk to you about is the Lifebuoy campaign. I don't know if you all know that at the Kumbh Mela this time around, Lifebuoy actually had heat stamps which were created, which got stamped onto the X million rotis that were being served. Food gets served at the Kumbh Mela every day, right? Lunch and dinner. So what happened was there were thousands of people who were in these roti kitchens stamping the rotis with one simple message: Kya aapne haath dhoye? Have you washed your hands today? So the minute the people sat down to eat their dinner, they would get these rotis stamped with "Have you washed your hands?" And the minute they saw that, there were Lifebuoy counters that were placed at the corner of each of these food halls where people could go use Lifebuoy to wash their hands and come back to eat. So now, it was a campaign which was a rave because it really helped reach out to X million people who came there, and the message was simple: just wash your hands before you eat, because the germs in your hands could cause a lot of diseases for you, right? So simple things like that can become really viral, right? It's just about defining who your target audience is, understanding the social presence of the target audience, and ensuring you market it accordingly. Sorry about the distraction. So what is the offering, that you're providing as a solution to this person that you want to bring on board and say, okay, this is your big problem and this is how I'm going to fix it for you. So if you can identify that, and like I said, use infographics and all of that, bring the right people in, get them interested, get them talking. Case studies always help. Talk about a Mr. Sharma with the Chhota Dukan in, let's say, Lucknow, who is selling chicken curry kurtas, and suddenly he created a page on Snapdeal, and now his kurtas are reaching, the far ends of Kodaikanal and Kashmir, and how he's become suddenly a national icon, right? So if you can create such stories which are very, very inspiring for people in the same segment to sort of come through, I think you can really, really make life very easy for yourselves, because there are a lot of interesting stories like this. So if you can find that interesting story and spin it and use social media to disseminate it, it will really help. So, like I said, success stories, testimonials, and something I spoke about. Create a need for the audience, so talk about how there is a need for people to move online, how a lot of people are moving away from even web-based apps to, all mobile apps. So, simple things like that can help you market big statistics, big numbers. Numbers talk to people, and that's something that you can do. So plan for expansion. How do you expand? Now you have created your first sample set of successful converts, right? How do you expand your business? How do you get more sellers on board? There could be multiple things that you can do. You can figure out a different sales strategy. You can send people out on the floor. You can use social media again. It's basically you create a customer who creates more customers. This is the most classic referral program. If Mr. Sharmaji can bring his friends, bring 2 friends, and say, we'll give you a special, offer only for referrals. So if you're Sharmaji, you will get benefited, and if there are 2 people that you're bringing on board, they will also be benefited. So if you can sort of bundle an offer, and if you can give it to them, there will always be customers who are happy to bring in referrals. If they're happy with your product, they will always come back and tell you that I have somebody else also who wants to use, who has the same problem, and things like that. So leverage the existing people who you have in your customer-based sort of plan your expansion, and of course, combine it with a 360-degree campaign. So that's it from me for today. I think I've gone through the entire lot. Like I said, this will be available for all of you. In case you guys have specific questions with these 3 things we spoke about, one is market research, 2 was sales, how to sell, and 3 was, of course, how do you expand the business, how do you grow, how do you, support and use marketing to leverage it. So these were the things that we focused on. I will be coming back again, of course, to talk to you, and of course I have said that you guys can all reach out to me by email. Drop me a line whenever you want, and if you need any specific help or if you have a specific problem, I have requested Atyasha to share my coordinates, so I'm available. And that's it from me. I would like to request the team to sort of come up and let me know if there are questions.
Thank you very much, Shreya, for the interesting session. There are a lot of attendees who have questions. So the first question is, which I'll just go through the questions. So the first person, Rajesh Srivastav, who would like to talk to you. Okay, so I will be giving access, so you can just answer his question.
Yeah, sure.
Rishi, you can go ahead. Yeah, you can go ahead and ask the question, Rishi.
Rishi, can you hear me?
Hello, Rishi, can you hear us? Okay, I think he's not here.
Okay, so can we move to the next question?
So we'll go to the next question is, here is a question where, how to convince sellers about the knowledge of social media and networking, as they are not aware of internet. Many sellers are not aware of internet. So this is the first question.
Okay, so how do you convince them would be to take valid examples with you. Like I said, the Sharmaji example, right? Pick somebody who is very similar to your target audience and try and ask them to talk about their success story for having used networking and for having used social media platforms. If you can pick, there are a lot of sellers in Rajasthan, there are a lot of sellers in Lucknow, not remotely join the happy family of customers who have joined us. And if you can take relevant to Snapdeal cases, ideally, which is what you should do, you can obviously convince the persons, because they will not be, they may be reluctant. The idea of moving away from reluctance is to show them business success, saying, if you do this is going to result in your business growing to X the next year. So that's something that will really help. to carry actual authentic, verified testimonial information when you're going to meet these people to convince them of how it is being used. So get a lot of data, get a lot of information around it, do some research on it, put it together nicely, present it nicely, and take it to them and say, we can make you the next Mr. Sharma of so-and-so. And they'll be more than happy to sign up for whatever it is, networking or social media. Hello? Guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, Shreya, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
There was an issue. So
Okay.
the next, Shreya Patil would like to talk to you. So I'm giving him audio access.
Yeah.
Shreya, you can go ahead. Hello, Shreya, can you hear us?
In case they can't, let them just type the question and send it in, at least, so that we can meet the questions. Can you guys hear me? Hello? Hello? Hello, is there an issue? Can you guys hear me?
Shreya, can you hear us?
I can now. I couldn't for
Hello,
a bit.
sir?
Yeah, I can hear.
Okay, Rishi has a question. He wants to know more details about tailored marketing.
Tailored marketing. Okay, so tailored marketing is something that you have to spend a little bit of time with research, because tailoring your marketing campaign to fit your target audience is something that you can do basis of understanding this audience. Now, if you know that this is something that most organizations do if their product is specific to a particular age group, right? If you know that whoever is going to use your product is between the ages of 20 to 30, they live in metros, they live in, let's say, X income level families and areas, what you will do is you will target only them. So you will tailor make your campaign only to do that. Right? Tailored is very different from mass marketing. Mass marketing is you put an ad out there, whoever wants to buy buys. Sometimes you do a combination of both. So tailor-made marketing will meet the requirements of your target segment only. So based on the market research that you've conducted, you will tailor plan your campaign to fit the person who you're going to ultimately sell. So if that's sellers, then you will figure out, like I said, from what time he wakes up to what air he breathes, get into the identity/psyche of each of your sellers and understand what are the common pain points, understand what are the common areas that bring them together. Using that, figure out a campaign which is tailor-made to suit them so that they'll come and buy your product. That is tailored campaign.
Okay, our next question is, where can we use the sales learning curve?
The sales learning curve is mostly for your own personal understanding. If your product, as entrepreneurs, you will be at stages where your product is at the baby stage, right? Where you know the product, you understand it, you are interfacing with it. So that is when the learning curve begins. The product is at that stage. Then there is the transition stage, wherein the product is becoming complete. It's also becoming a full-fledged business model and is going to grow. That's where the traction point is reached. And so for you to know how to sell, which is why I said you have to be very careful as entrepreneurs to not sell in the first stage of your product when it's still a baby. Don't think your baby is going to start walking in the first months, right? It takes a full year for the baby to be around for it to start attempting to walk. So similarly with any product or idea, you have to use the sales learning curve for your own understanding to figure out where it is that you are. And if you want to sell at the baby stages, then you have to make your customers aware that we're a new product, we're experimenting, we want you to think and think like us and be an innovator with us and be somebody who leads the change, and be honest with them and tell them that it's new, so that they know that they're, it's a good feeling for them, because they're like, oh, somebody's asking us to test the product, and that could be an interesting thing for me to do. So if you involve them in your story process, it becomes a lot easier. So learning curve of sales is always relevant to you for you to decide how you're going to reach your audience, depending on where you are as an organization or an idea or a product.
Okay, our next question is, how one should influence someone who is afraid to go on board?
Firstly, try and understand the past experience. Secondly, come up, sit and spend time understanding everything that could go wrong in the process. Okay? The minute you know that 15 things can go wrong, you will firstly bring in things and areas which will check the fact that things could go wrong. Secondly, you will also know what could have gone wrong. So if your product is going to cross and tick off, this can't go wrong with us, this can't go wrong with us, this can't go wrong with us, and if you have data to back you up, if you say, this is a simple process, it's a 3-step process, all you need to do is this, and this shows this results, and there is nobody who is countering you, and there have been no bad experiences, and there are people who are willing to talk about the good things about this, then you're fine. You don't really have to worry about what could go wrong, because then you can explain to this person saying, to start with, if you feel that this person is going to be a no-say right at the start, you start with saying, there are other people who have faced different problems in different platforms, but we don't have those problems because we fortunately managed to eliminate these issues which come with going online, which come with the virtual shop. And the benefit versus the risk is very, very low. The risk is only 0.01% and your benefit is at 100%, the person will obviously go there. But you need to have data to back it up.
Okay, the next question is, most of the business representatives are busy and not sparing time. How can we grab their attraction?
So to grab, if it's on the telephone, it's a little difficult because you all know how difficult it is for us to pick calls of anybody we don't know. If you can try social media first, figure out their LinkedIn first, connect to them via an existing online platform or send them an email. Do some sort of connect at the first level or send a personal SMS and say, this. Explain yourself, figure out that pitch, and then go to them. It's easier versus a direct phone call, which people may not pick up because we all say no to these sales calls, right? So it's about breaking the ice and about how you go about breaking that ice. So if it's an email campaign or a social media campaign, run one of these, build a credibility, and then call them. Again, start with stats and start with a problem that the person could have by giving a solution. So that will help.
Okay. So we have another attendee who would like to ask a question. So I'll give audio access.
Yeah. Last couple of questions, guys. I need to go. I have another meeting. So we're on. Right?
Okay. There is one question where most of the sellers are afraid of giving their PAN number and account details. This is to onboard them onto the Snaptail website. How do we convince?
Okay. So firstly, you have to explain the process of. Firstly, you need to go and perhaps link them to get this information because I won't share my PAN and account details to anybody, right? So they do need to give an authentication that you work for Snaptail and that only via this process will the money go back to them. That is when they'll see the value to it. So the way you explain that is as important as telling them that, if you want your money to be credited into your account, we believe this information. Snapdeal. In case you need, get Snapdeal's help to give you a signed non-disclosure form which you say that you can sign this. We have this non-disclosure form that we signed on our end, and we will give you full, authentic IDs of us for you to share this information with us. That's how you go about that. That's more of an operation.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Shreya, for the interesting session. Thank you all our attendees for participating in the webinar. We are glad that the questions kept coming in, but due to lack of time, we were unable to answer them all. Thank you once again, and attendees, the questions which are not answered will be answered offline, so you can just check your mails. So thank you very much, Shreya.
I'll be happy to do that. Thanks, guys. Thanks. Nice talking to all of you, and thanks for the questions. And like I said, I'll keep in touch.
Thank you so much, Shreya.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.